Bishop Thomas, and to all of my colleagues in this creative and imaginative celebration of the seven last words. It's considered the most anguished cry in human history. Jesus reaching back to the opening verse of David's Lament in Psalm 22, when we hear what a devoted follower of God does when caught somewhere between allegiance and ambiguity. My God, why have you forsaken me? The question can't be raised to anybody else because David's very life has been absorbed in his musings and melodies about the greatness and majesty of God. It explains why Jesus, gripped by the pain of crucifixion, grabs this psalm and not another. He grabs this psalm to express his inner thoughts. The greatest voluntary sacrifice for human redemption hangs now suspended between obedience and anguish. And what might Jesus do? From where will he pull his inspiration? And you might ask, from which stream will he drink to slake his thirst? What a relief to me that Jesus grabs, of all that he could extract from the Psalms, he grabs a lament. Because I've often thought myself to be somehow a lesser or weaker Christian for wailing before God about my personal circumstances, expressing to him how much I'm mourning the loss of all things normal, comfortable, and convenient in my life. I don't often share how much my conversations with God can be my expressions of anguish, and how there are times when I dance around his throne delicately, when he asks me, William Curtis, how you doing, and what are you thinking? I agree today with Richard Rohr when he reminds us that the rationalist is always looking for an explanation, trying to find some intellectual space to fit this unexplainable season into. Oh, and the romantic is looking for the sigh of relief, even if it's not true, just tell me that everything's gonna be okay soon. Even if I know it's not true, tell me it's not gonna hurt as bad as it's presently hurting. And it now begs the question, what is the lament in search of when it is raised? If I can't explain it to my comfort level, and if I can't find relief, that it intends no more than a light affliction when it hits my life, then what does the lament really offer me? Well, to me, it's clear that Jesus wasn't searching for a literal answer to that anguished question. Why? Because he knew how this was going to unfold. But he sure was making a bold statement that he intended to work this pain and this conflict out nowhere else and with no one else but God, to whom he directs the lament, and from where he pulls it lets us know that he's very spiritually attuned and that the pain hasn't cluttered his view towards heaven. I need that ability to lament to the God I love because it provides honest space for my need to express where I am and to express how I'm feeling. Thank God we're given permission to cross sometimes over the terrain of praise and thanksgiving and pass by the space of worship and adoration, and that God also accepts our approach when it comes with great mourning and wailing and expressions fed by deep ambiguities regarding his will and how strange his ways can be sometimes. When lavishing praise is not the genuine offering you can make to him based on how you're struggling to understand his will, the text teaches us there's also space enough in God's grace that you can bring to him your lament, and he will hear that too. In fact, I want to lean in on it a little further and suggest to us that God brings us closer when it's connecting, yes, by lavishing praise or by lamenting my feelings of fear and frustration. He doesn't mind when I make my ascent up that hill of prayer with a confused look on my face, with an indicting word first released from my mouth upon my arrival. God, what are you doing? How can this be the angle or approach or strategy or plan for my life? Are you serious? That this season is going to involve me having to manage this and juggle that, and you want me to handle it how? You want me to forgive who? You want me to include who? And for how long did you say this will last? You may not have ever been able to label this, brothers and sisters. You may not have ever been able to put a label on this shape of expression when talking about your relationship with the Lord, but I promise you that you've done it. Because this lament is the cry every Christian knows when having been blessed to see God work swiftly and powerfully before. If you've ever witnessed God's awesome displays of power, then you know that is married and matched sometimes to the ambiguity and conundrum of his silence. Having to juxtapose the times you've seen God work quickly to intervene in your life over against the times it seems God holds back his direct presence and lets the suffering last longer than you concluded it should. Before, I couldn't struggle long enough at all. Before, God was defeating what was bent on defeating me. And now it seems, God, you're noticeably silent in my struggle. And I mourn the absence of swiftness with which I've grown accustomed when it comes to how you move on my behalf. Where, God, now is that multiplying, protecting, defending, yoke destroying, way making, prayer answering immediacy that I know you're capable of. Oh, I've seen you make ways before. I've seen you answer my prayers immediately. I've felt you pull or push me in certain directions to avoid pits and perilous places. And that's all the more reason why I'm totally baffled as to why you are delayed and silent now. Well, what do I do when life pushes me from whatever lofty level I was living on down to the level of lament? Or maybe I should say up to the level of lament, Well, this text teaches us you enter into your devotion with whatever authentic key you need to use to open the door that has separated you and God. And if it's a lament, then let that be your point of spiritual entry when you can't find a praise. When what you're going through cannot content a thanksgiving for you, can I tell you that God doesn't mind you entering his presence with a lament as well? Don't try to find something positive to say when you can't find anything positive to muse about. Don't try to find something positive to say about what is driving you crazy or keeping you confused, because the truth is there might not be anything positive about this level, this space, this place, this season of pain you're feeling. Don't try to rationalize it, because while we're all made to endure these painful places, the conundrum is I never thought it'd be my turn right now. You mean it's my turn now? That makes it different for me. I was encouraging when it was somebody else's turn, but now that it's my turn, I have to express I'm confused, I'm conflicted. I was the one praying, encouraging everybody else. How can it be my turn? There's no way to explain this. And God, because I don't have any way to explain this, I have to be honest. I can't ascend this hill into your presence with a praise and a thanksgiving. The lament is all I have. God, where are you? What are you doing? And why is this where you have me today? And my brothers and sisters, here's the point. If the lament is all you have, then you let that lament lead you right into the presence of God. That's the goal anyway, isn't it? To take our anguish as deep as it is, to take it to God and let me wrestle with God right there. You'll quickly discern that the lament is an acceptable leader right to the heart of God, just like other disciplines of our worship and expressions of thanksgiving. And whether he answers or not, or answers quick, or decides to delay, the greater testimony is the statement you are making aside from the lament you are offering. Do you hear it in the text? Jesus' words specifically are, my God, why have you forsaken me? But his having said it makes a bigger statement. And what is that bigger statement? Here it is. God, I'm not letting go of you, even from the extremities of my life. I held on tight when things were calm and peaceful, when you were answering quick and holding suffering at bay, making all my enemies my footstool. And you know what I'm going to do now that I'm caught in confusion and conundrum, now that I'm in mental conflict? I'm going to do the same thing I did when things were making sense. I'm going to hold on tight. And no matter how tumultuous and seemingly perilous the times are becoming, I'm holding on to you, even if you have to lean in on your relationship with God with a lament. You offer it because it says, even when life hits me hard, God, I'm not letting go of you. Praise is not my preference today. No thanksgiving is rising unimpeded. I'm more doubtful than convinced. I'm living in ambiguity that I haven't felt in a long time, but I'm not letting go of you, Lord. And this is the best I can do to hold on to you. The best I can do to hold on in this season is to lament. God, why are you forsaking me? Because even in my lament, I'm expressing my trust. I'm staking my claim that even this feeling of human isolation and conflict can't stop me from holding on to you. I won't let my confusion make me doubt my absolutes, and I will not let the conflict in my life make me forget my convictions. You walk with me. You talk with me. So I repeat it again, that God brings us close, whether it's connecting by lavishing praise on him or lamenting my feelings of fear and my perceptions of abandonment. Thank God he lets me lean in however I need to lean in. That great pulpiteer Charles Spurgeon tells a story about two men in a boat. They're caught in a very severe storm out on the water. The rapids are raging. They're headed towards a waterfall. And there's really no way, if they hit those rapids headed towards that waterfall, that they'll be able to survive. And as you would imagine, they started to struggle for their lives. And as they're carried swiftly downstream, they're carried towards the perilous rocks that are ahead of them. Some men on the shore saw them out on the water struggling. They tried to save the two men by throwing a rope out. By this time, the men had fallen out of that little boat. They were struggling with the current, headed towards the waterfall. One man caught the rope, and he was pulled safely to shore. At that same instant, Spurgeon says, the other man, who could have as easily seized the rope, in his panic of the moment, he instead grabbed onto a log that was floating by, and that turned out to be his fatal mistake. One man was drawn to the shore because he had a connection with the people on the land. The other, clinging to a log, was carried down through the rapids and unfortunately never found again. I think you see it. What faith does is faith gives you a connection to the shore, doesn't it? Faith gives you a connection to the shore through an intimate relationship with Jesus Christ. Here it is, even if the lament has to be your rope that brings you to shore. My God is the rope you grab onto that leads you to shore, and not the log that carries you to your human demise. My brother, my sister, you stay connected. No matter what, no matter how, you stay connected. And it's not hard because the rope is thrown to you, and it's thrown to you from one side of lavishing praise. It's thrown to you all the way from the other side of lamenting in pain. Maybe that's why Paul said, what then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Who shall bring a charge against God's elect? It is God who justifies. Who is he who condemns? It is Christ who died, and furthermore is also risen, who is even at the right hand of God, who also makes intercession for us. This is the part I'm trying to get to. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword, as it is written? For your sake we are killed all day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter. Yet in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other created thing shall ever be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. When you can't ascend that hill, lavishing praise upon God, just know he wants you to ascend anyway, even if all you have as the key to access your uninterrupted time with God is the lament you have. He doesn't mind you asking him, God, where are you? And why have you put me in this predicament? Because after he ministers to you, you will descend that hill with an assured conviction that all things are working together for my good, because I'm called by God and I'm called according to his purpose.